Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here, students especially. I want to introduce our moderator for this evening, Emma Bazillion, and I'm just going to turn it right over to you, Emma.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Emma Bazillion, and I am the content director at FREDERIC Magazine, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, considering that you're here, or maybe you're not, in which case you should pick up a copy because it's a great magazine. I'm very biased, but I am very excited to be here with two of our 2025 IT List awardees. So every year we present about a dozen designers and firms with the IT List Award, which celebrates exciting rising talent in the design space. And we've got two of our amazing 2025 members here. We actually just celebrated last week, so everyone's still kind of coming off of the big party high. So we're just going to chat a little bit about, your journeys in the design world and how you got started, what you learned, and anything else we feel like talking about. Do you want to each introduce yourself and, tell us a little bit about how you got into the design world?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rebecca Amir. I am a residential interior designer, dabble in commercial as well. I have a studio space in Ridgefield, Connecticut, live in Pound Ridge, New York, and Westchester. And I definitely didn't know that I wanted to be an interior designer until later in life. I mean, I always loved beautiful things and cared about what the paint color was in my room and what I wore and things like that, but I didn't even know what an interior designer was and, didn't know about the interiors world at all. I studied journalism in school and then was offered an internship at Vogue and obviously took it, was so excited. I was into fashion. I was like, yeah, this is great. This is so cool. And it was in the home office at Vogue. I was working for the home editor and covering design and lifestyle. So our days we did a lot of market work, which is like every morning going to see new collections of fabric, rugs, furniture, meeting designers. Like we were just always out there seeing what's new and what's exciting in the design world and then reporting back. And maybe it was for a column or maybe it was for, one of the stylists would be having a shoot on the beach and need like the best beach towels. And we would have just seen them the week before at the Hermes collection or whatever. And, we need them tomorrow. And then they're there. So that was a lot of the job. And that was my design education, basically. It was just learning about all the vendors. I kept a spreadsheet with all of my favorite places for pillows and my favorite places for English sofas and this and that. And I still have these spreadsheets. So I learned so much and absorbed so much from just like the iconic editors around me. And then I fell in love with somebody who lived overseas. So I left and did all sorts of things trying to find out like what I wanted to do over there. I lived in Israel, which like the world of Vogue did not exist there. I mean, it was a very cool arts and design scene, but I really had to sort of do some soul searching and figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And when we came back to New York a few years later, I got married to this man and now have 2 children. But when I got back to New York, I was like, what did I miss when I was there? I missed that world. I missed those places I used to go for pillows and all those things. So the first thing I did was enroll in a course here. I did the Intro to Interior Design course. I did a crash course in AutoCAD. And then I called one of my mentors from Vogue, who was Virginia Tupker, who at that point was like running her own extremely successful firm, and she graciously invited me to start working with her. And then that was it. I was like, I'm going to be an interior designer. These are the 3 things I'm doing. And kind of the rest was history. I ended up working for Soho House for a few years on their design team, and then started my own firm in 2022.
Same here. For me too. It's exciting.
Notice that. And then our other lister, Valerie Pena, I feel like you are on the very other end of the spectrum where you always knew what you wanted to do.
Well, yes. Well, so I'm born and raised in Dominican Republic, and my mom has a window treatment fabrication back home and upholstery, so I grew up among textiles. I remember at a very early age, like take it with a grain of salt, because I do remember saying, people would say, oh, you're gonna run your mom's business, and I would say, I would never be a decorator, like when I was like 5, 6, 7. But then I remember in high school, I was always in charge of like the decoration committee. And it almost became like a very natural, like we would do Don Quixote de la Mancha, like a play or something, and I would be doing all the stagings. And I remember looking back, like those were the first installations I did. Like I was given a budget, I was having people under me, and I would do all these installs and the core for prom and the core. And all my education is in Spanish. Like I immigrated here when I was 24, so I have no idea how the US works. But in the DR, when you're a senior in high school, like you sit down with your classmates because we are together from kindergarten to senior year. And everybody tell each other what they think you should be based on your, what they know of yourself. And everybody said, you need to be a decorator. Like, that's your talent. I was never good academically. Like, that was just my thing. And I pursued it academically. I went to school for it in the DR. Shout out to Univa, great school, because when I came here, I was, I realized that I was technically very strong. I started in hospitality down there. I worked for an architect, and I oversee some renovations in hotel, in Casa de Campo. Then I did my master's in Madrid in industrial design, moved to New York, and started working for some designers, three in total before I opened my practice. So if AI ever takes over and screw, because this is the only thing I know how to do and ever done.
AI, it just doesn't have the taste level. And everybody wants something new anyway. So, optimistically, I feel like we're going to be fine. Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. So I know, so you took a course here and you studied design both in undergrad and graduate school. Yeah. Are there any areas that either of you wish that you had maybe focused on more or just like learned more about in your design education that would have been helpful for later in your career?
We were talking about that. In school, you mean?
In school, yeah.
Particularly in school. Those days are long gone. I graduated from high school 20 years ago, but nothing comes to mind, to be honest. I wish they taught me, but by the way, because my education is overseas, it wouldn't have helped, but more accounting, more taxes, more of that aspect of the business, like how to file all of that, but the US is its own thing in that, so it wouldn't have mattered. I wish I knew more of that than what I know now.
Yeah, and I don't fully know like what is offered here, but something I was just talking with Val and someone else about was like the marketing part of design, and especially having your own business. It's such a huge part of it, and a lot of creatives, I think, you think about marketing and you're like, it's creative, I can do it, but there's so much more to it, and it's hard to make the time for it, and even just to talk about yourself in that way and feel like a little salesy, it's very hard for me. I don't know if they teach that, but if they have a marketing course, definitely do it.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I hear from a lot of people the kind of, I wish I knew more about the business side of things, which I totally get because, I feel like it's very much not something that you think about when you think, I want to be a designer, is like, how am I going to run the actual business side of this? But also, getting yourself out there and, getting publicity and just kind of spreading your name, especially when you're starting off on your own.
That's the funny thing. We go into these businesses thinking about, I'm going to be a decorator, interior designer, however you want to call it. The decorator part is just like very little. It's a very 10%. Like the rest is something else. And you have to love the something else that it is in order to keep it sustainable. Like you're in a profession of service, first and foremost. The decoration is how much do we do in a month? Like the rest is project management, is dealing with clients, is dealing with things that came broken. It's so many other things that have nothing to do with that 10% of the work.
Yeah, that's very good advice. So both of you worked for other design firms earlier in your career. How did you know that you were ready to go off on your own?
I think for me, I was working at Soho House at the time, and it's hospitality, and it was so intense, and I was working so many hours, and it was COVID, and the staff had been reduced by like 80%, so I was then doing so many jobs and loving it, but also just feeling a little burnt out. And then I got pregnant with my first child and took maternity leave and finally got a little bit of space to be like, whoa, that was crazy. Like, what was I doing? And also at the same time, somehow people started reaching out to me on the side, friends of friends that knew what I was doing, and they were asking me to do small projects. And I was like, well, I have time. I had a newborn. I had no time. I was just too crazy to realize that. But I said yes, and it was a little bit psychotic, but I did these projects, and it gave me a taste of what it would be like to have my own firm. And once I did that and I finished my maternity leave, I was like, I understood the value of having the autonomy to make my own schedule and even just to make my own decisions on the project. So I knew that I wasn't going to go back to working for somebody else after that.
What about you, Val?
To me, it was the experience. I feel like in my case, like I was working for Nicole, and I was there for 6 years, and I climbed up to be the director of the firm. So by the time I quit it, like I already had done numerous projects from beginning to end myself, and all the mistakes that I needed to make, I made it for someone else before. And the opportunity came where I had a project that I took on the side while I was at the office, and then I saw the opportunity that that project could become another and another, and you have to have a leap of faith. And interior design, in residential design, in my opinion, again, bias, like there's just as much as you can climb if your name is not on the door in terms of the financial. So like the profession, I guess, it pushes you if your ambition to kind of like put your name on the door. And I had that project, and I took a leap of faith. My dad said, the worst that could happen, what is it? That you go back and you have a great portfolio. You've been doing this for how many years? So I did, and then exactly that. 1 became 2, 2 became 3, and it was a good jump.
What was your first solo project?
I just saw it. It was the West Village residence, Christine Masters, that one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This was your first solo?
Yeah, not first on Valerie Peña Studio. Yeah, that was it.
That's incredible.
Thank you. It's on 90 Morton on the West Village. And that client is, I love what I do, but I love it because of the people that I do it for. And she's the kindest person, and yeah.
And what was your first big project that you did alone?
Mine, I think, is also up there somewhere.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Really.
it's not that one. It's not that one. It's that one. Yeah, that one.
Oh, this townhouse.
Yeah. So
Wow,
it was a townhouse in Cobble
project.
Hill, and it was a friend of a friend, and they had reached out while I was at Soho House, being like, "Hey, we bought this 4-story brownstone in Cobble Hill. Do you want to help us? We've always loved your style. Do you want to help us design it?" And I was like, yes, that's my dream. Yes. So yeah, it was like the ideal first client, and honestly still my best client. We were so aligned on style, and it just made everything so much fun. And weirdly, at the time, I was living on the Upper East Side, and by the end of the project, I was living a block away, which was so funny. Yeah.
That's sweet. I guess if that's the case for all first clients, like,
Is it?
I don't know, because she has a very strong space in my heart.
Oh, and this is
Great.
This is really random, but at the FREDERIC Awards dinner the other night, this guy came up to me after the dinner, and was like, oh, you designed my brother's house. And it was that project. And he was only there because he was friends with one of the other designers.
Wow.
It
By
was
the way,
very full circle.
He was sitting next to me, by the way. He didn't shut up about his brother's place being out there.
It's so funny.
I mean, do you get most of your clients through word of mouth, through past clients?
Yeah, a lot of it. But I would say, I'll say I had a project, actually that project was on the cover of Lux, and that was the first time that I feel like my network really grew, and I was getting people that like completely unrelated to me, just being like, hey, I saw this on the cover, and I loved it. And
I'm hoping that what you're saying comes to me, because I'm on the cover of Lux this month and I haven't received any business.
Congratulations.
No, but I wonder if you do get projects out of these things, because for me it has solidly been word of mouth as of now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, for me at least, it's interesting to hear. It makes me positive that perhaps someone will call.
yeah, I think print has a lot of power. I'm not just saying that because of who I'm sitting next to, but I really do. Because somebody emailed me saying they had this magazine on the top of their stack next to their bed for like 6 months, and then they bought a house and they were ready to do their house, and they knew that they wanted that designer from the top of their stack.
Wow.
So
That's amazing. What do you think of Instagram? Like Instagram, is that something? Because I listen constantly. I'm sorry if I'm getting off topic.
No, this is
I'm
something
like, I want to know how to get
curious
business.
about.
But like, I listen constantly to Business of Home, and I've heard people like idols like Nicole Holish saying that she does get a lot of clientele from Instagram now. And I've posted and try to post every day, but it does grow, but I've never got an inquiry out of anything other than the word of mouth. So it's interesting.
I personally, I feel like I'm not on Instagram as much as I should be. I do feel like at this point, like it's become so saturated with just designers and people reposting things that it's almost harder to wade through that and find what you like than, use word of mouth and, know that someone you trust has, worked with this designer, or, I think, again, I'm very biased, but I think one of the great things about, being on the cover of a print magazine is it's just your project on the cover. You're not like, being swiped in the middle of 500 other things. So there's something valuable about, kind of, the edited nature of a magazine, I think, or even, like the website of a magazine or a blog or something like that, but just where you're, not part of like a deluge of content, but you're actually getting a spotlight.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So go print. So where do you find your inspiration when you're starting a project? Because I think, kind of related to the Instagram conversation, everyone has seen everything now, it feels like, and nothing is new. And, like when you see a project, you're like, oh, well, like so-and-so was clearly referencing so-and-so. And that's something that, not even just design industry people know, but like, I'm sure plenty of your clients now know all of these names and all of these brands because of Instagram and social media. So how do you create something that feels new and original?
I always like to start by digging into the history of the space or the building or whatever it is, because you can discover so many little like golden nuggets of information. For example, I have a project on Riverside Drive, and it's this old pre-war building, and before the client even engaged me, they had to do something with the electrical, so they opened up a wall in the kitchen, and behind it found like this really sweet little red, like teeny tiny red floral printed wallpaper. And it was and we all loved it. And then that inspired the wallpaper that we used in her little girl's bedroom, because it just felt like right. And I think that's so much of finding the right inspiration. It's like, you can't just take an image from Instagram that, however many thousand people liked and apply it to anything. It's about finding like the right thing and putting it in the right moment. And I think so much of that comes from history and it has to feel appropriate and right. And that's sometimes hard to explain to clients when they're sending you all of these things from Instagram, being like, I love this. And I'm like, that's a sunny California living room, and you have a garden apartment. So we can't do that. But yeah, it's all about, I think, finding the right reference from history to bring in.
I mean, do you find that you do get a lot of clients sending you, their inspiration and asking you to kind of recreate things, and, they might not necessarily know that this is, like you were saying, this is not applicable to their situation? And how do you get around that? Like, because, they're the client, they're the one who's calling the shots, but also you're the designer who knows what you're doing.
I wish I knew. It's hard. It depends on the client. In every project, in my case, they're all very different. Some clients are not involved at all in the sense of aesthetic, and they trust me, and they trust the vision, and they say go, and that's incredible. Others don't have your same taste, and I don't agree with that, what they liking, but it's their home, so I have to respect that. And this is something that I wonder for myself. And Anastasia and I talked about it a while ago. Like, I don't know if I have a design aesthetic like that. I feel like I almost, like, the inspiration is the client, and it's almost like we work together to see what they want to leave, what they want to see, is their stories, the space. At the end of the day, I'm going to leave, they're going to stay, and my job is that it looks beautiful, but that they love their home. So when I leave and I get that text, Val, like, you made all my, like, this is what I do this for, it's for that line, that they're happy in the space that they leave. But yeah, every project is different. Like right now I'm working with Middle Eastern client that has a pied-à-terre here, and they gave me a very, very tight deadline. It's like December 1st, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, and so there's no inspiration. It's like, what's in stock? Like, so every project really varies, and you take, depending on the project, it's a very different process. I would answer that.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes though, like, tight parameters can be a good thing. Because, at least when you're designing with no end date or no parameters, like, it can be hard to kind of narrow down what you want to do. But, I think maybe that's more of an issue when you're designing for yourself rather than a client. At least that's why, I have not decided on a sofa that I've spent 3 years looking at, because I'm just like, I know there's going to be a new fabric collection next week that's going to be better than what I can get right now. And then it's really dangerous.
I've been there.
So what is your biggest challenge as a designer, either in terms of, actually running your business, or just like your process and finding inspiration and bringing things to life?
I think for me, it's balancing being a service provider and also being a smart business person, because your instinct is like, this is a person and they're telling me they're not happy with something, so I'm going to fix it no matter what. But then you're also, from the business side, like, well, did they sign off on it? Did they, like, you can't always just throw your own money at the problem. There has to be some client responsibility, and sometimes that's a tricky conversation to have. And so I find that to be very hard to navigate. Like, when is it, I'm going to discount something later because I felt bad that the mirror didn't, I don't know. Like, there's all kinds of different situations that you work through in your head, but I'm trying to be more like, you signed off on this, you knew everything about it, and this is what it is. You can pay for more design time to find another mirror. But I think, like, when I first started, I was very much like, I'll do anything you want. You're the client, you're paying me, sure. And now I think, setting a lot more boundaries, and I'm finding that clients respect it, and that's been nice. But I still have to every time, like, reprogram my brain, be like, you're a business owner, you can't just give them everything they want always.
What about you, Val?
In terms of the struggle of owning the business, I would say it will always forever be, but I'm an immigrant, it will always be the language, something that I struggle till today, and it will forever struggle. It's not easy for me. Sometimes I look at Anastasia, I'm like lost in a meeting. A client said something and I understood something else. It gets better every year, but I would say that's probably my biggest.
It's interesting. Because you do, I feel like it's such a visual medium, but also I guess when someone's
Look at where I am. Like, this is so out of my comfort zone, and I'm pushing myself to do these kind of things, but it doesn't come out naturally at all. It's an effort. Thank you.
So you started in hospitality and you worked at Soho House, and you also designed a boutique hotel, I believe. Was that was outside of the Soho House thing?
With Soho.
Oh, okay. So I'm just kind of fascinated by the hospitality space. Like, how do you still do hospitality projects? No. And like, how is it, obviously it's different, the scale and the materials you're using, but, are there any things that you think that people who are doing residential design would be surprised to learn about hospitality, or vice versa?
I think that sometimes you hear like these big hospitality names and you think that there's huge budgets involved, and that is definitely not always the case. It's often a lot harder to deal with the budgets because you've got to get so much in there, and they're trying to save. You're dealing with like builder businessmen who don't really get design a lot of the time, and they're trying to save on everything, and you're like, it has to be beautiful. So there's a big balance and a lot of value engineering, and we designed a lot of custom furniture, and it's like, okay, looking at that, what's driving the cost? Can we eliminate the curve? Can we eliminate metal? Like, just trying to always kind of please the budget, I think is, I think before I did hospitality, I thought, oh, the budget's, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. We're going to be able to do whatever. And I think it was a lot tighter than I expected.
Oh, that's interesting. Did you find that too when you were working in hospitality?
At the moment, not, but when I did work in high-end residential, it shocked me, the numbers that I was seeing. And I think that's often a misconception of people, that when they think, oh, you're in hospitality, you're in commercial, like when I was in school, looking back, oh, that looks more like, I don't know, it's grander in your mind. Whereas if you're with the right clientele, there's no budget necessarily in those people's houses. Whereas you're always on a budget in a hospitality, as she said. So I think it's a misconception that like if you're, let's say, top 10 millionaire, like your house, you spend whatever you want, but even the biggest enterprises, they do have a budget. But it did shock me when I came here to see how divided the industries are. Because in the R, it's not like that. Like here, residential and hospitality, different designers, different vendors even, different, like the industry is very divisive that way. Whereas somewhere else, other places overseas is not. Like you do both and that's it. Here you have firms that do both, but I worked for an architect for 2 years here. I was his interior designer, and in that firm, he did some hotels in the city, a small scale, and nothing too high-end, but still the hospitality process. And when I moved then to residential, like it was almost learning like new vendors, new textiles, new wallpaper, everything is different, even the stores that you go to. And it was interesting to see how divided the industries are.
Yeah, that is interesting, because you do kind of think, you get a big hospitality project and you've got so much money to spend on it, but, you're also, people are looking to make money on it, whereas hopefully they're not necessarily looking to make money on their house. I mean, eventually when they sell it, they are, but.
You do make money, and you have a lot of power, because when you go to a vendor, you say, I'm going to fabricate 2,000 chairs. Like, those vendors are kissing your feet because it's a very large order, whereas like I'm just making one. But probably that one chair that I'm buying in value per chair is way more costly than those individual chairs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you studied product design too, you were saying, in grad school. Do you still do a lot of custom product?
It was industrial design and master's in Madrid. To be honest, I don't know how I graduated. It was too technical. Like, it wasn't too oriented to design. It was more into like production, and it was extremely technical. But I managed, and I did it. We do custom furniture. Like, I've seen some custom pieces, like for Lisa Orland, like one of the Sagapona, we did like a coffee table here. We always obviously do built-ins. I've done like a chair and some objects, but eventually that's in the near future. I would love to have my line, and that's something that I would like to implement. Yeah, in the near future, it's something I would like to do.
It's interesting because I know we've spoken about, just how, like, in kind of the quest for somebody wanting something original that they haven't seen a million times before, you're creating custom pieces or doing custom finishes or bringing artisans in. And I know that you, I think a project of yours that we saw had some incredible. Oh, is that the custom coffee table?
That coffee table we did. It's a petrified wood and concrete tub. But yeah, it's cute. It came out okay. The client likes it. That's all that matters.
I mean, it looks great. It's an amazing project.
But no, I wouldn't say that we.
Yeah.
It's a very small percentage of custom millwork, yes, but custom furniture is a very small percentage. I do specify it from everywhere else, then produce it myself.
So how do you find the vendors or the artisans, particularly, that you work with, and is that really important to kind of have people in your Rolodex that can bring these things to life?
I feel like that's everything. Like, that's a designer's superpower, is who you have ready to do incredible things with you. I think the project you were mentioning is I used this decorative painter to do something really special on some closet doors at the Brooklyn show house that I did last year. And that's like just discovering him and working with him. It was word of mouth from another designer. She was like, try him. And now he's my secret weapon. I've been using him. We've been collaborating a lot together. And I think it's helpful to have designer friends and to ask, like, who are you working with for this and that. And also, actually, that's kind of what I use Instagram for. I have a whole vendors folder where if a designer is tagging the person who made the coffee table for them, I'm like, save. And then if I need something, I go into my vendors folder and I'm like, who's in Westchester that does wood and concrete tables? And I can sometimes start there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I do feel like that is honestly what I use Instagram for a lot too, is, like I was researching a story on decorative painters and just looking at like who people are tagging in their photos. Yeah. And, it can be helpful to just find sources as opposed to necessarily like design inspiration. Mm-hmm. So kind of what we were going off of talking about magazine covers. Do you think that it is important, or even, how important is it to actually invest in photographing your own projects early on in your career?
We chatted about this just before.
Go ahead.
It's everything.
Yeah.
I think it's the most important thing to do. Even if it's your bedroom that you designed, get the best photographer and the best stylist and do it up and get 10 shots of this one bedroom. I feel like it's just the only thing you have, really. And then, on bigger projects, eventually, of course, investing in a stylist, something we were talking about.
Because you worked for Mika Tenhav, who's a great stylist who, worked with for FREDERIC. And I think it's interesting because, you don't necessarily think like, oh, I need a stylist with the photographer, but people who use a stylist, I feel like the results are pretty apparent.
Yeah, it's helpful to, like, you in some cases are working on a project for 2 years, even more, and you planned for every single element in that project to be exactly how it is. And then to have somebody whose eye that you admire, like Mika, or, there's so many amazing stylists these days, to have someone come in and be dedicated to you and look at your project and say, okay, this is awesome, but let's take out this chair. Like, it's not telling the story. Or let's add flowers from outside that window and bring them in so that people know that there's a garden out there. Like, just like connecting.
I didn't even think of that.
Just connecting, like telling the story. I think creating an image that tells a story is a lot different than just taking a picture. And I think that that's what the magazines are looking for. Or you will know better than that.
No, I mean, it really is, I feel like the thing that we say when we see a project that it's nice, but like there's no soul to it, is it looks like real estate photos.
Yeah.
Like it just looks like, this is a place that is pretty, but it doesn't look like people live here. And I feel like good styling can really get across, that there is life happening in this house. And that's what, I think we want to see is not just a pretty room, but like a pretty room with a story.
Get alone and invest as much as you can in the photo because, as of now, I think I have like 5 projects that I've professionally photographed. And I was just talking about Rebecca about this because I didn't know she works for Miyake, which is one of my idols. And I made the mistakes, even though the photos are great, I made the mistake of not, because I was on a budget, not paying for a stylist. So all of my projects have been styled by me. And of course, they're not bad, but they could have been so much better if I would have. It's a different craft. And the last time I did my the Sagaponack shoot, I was like, it took all of me because an interior is very different than a composition of a photo and the layers and the flowers and I'm good with flowers, by the way. Like it's a natural talent. But still, like, they would have been so much more stronger if someone comes with a fresh set of eyes and does its own thing. So yes, it's important. And I would 100% advise to do both good photographer and good stylist.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I think for us on the editorial side, when a designer is, more advanced in their career and their work and the quality of it, you can send us just like iPhone shots of something and we'll be like, you can, not me personally, because I'm not really a stylist / producer, our wonderful design editor, design director, editor, just the best. Hudson is here and he's the one with the real eye. But, like he can look at iPhone shots and be like, I know what this is going to look like as a fully styled shoot. Whereas, when you're a more untested designer, like kind of takes more for us to see what the end result is going to be, I think. So it really does make a difference when we see photos that we can tell that, you have the eye to hire a great photographer and, hire a great stylist.
And the more you do this, now sometimes when I open the magazine, sometimes I see and I notice this is an incredible photo. That doesn't mean it's an incredible interior, but it is a very good photo, very well styled. And that's why magazines are publishing that. It's not necessarily as a composition, as an interior necessarily better. So it's interesting to see how important it is.
And vice versa, too, because I feel like our art director is constantly telling me, because, I'll show her a photo of a room that I love, and she'll say, that's a great room, but it's not a great photo. Mm-hmm. And that is, what kind of, that's the most important thing about what ends up in the magazine is it can be a great room with a lot of great decorating ideas, but if the photo is not great, then, it's not really going to pull people in.
Yep.
So, I'm trying to think of, like, I don't want to ask where you want to go next in your careers because obviously you're going to keep growing and do amazing things. But is there a, like, your 1-year plan? Like, what do you hope to be doing next?
That's a great question. I mean, this is sort of like a micro goal for me. And I don't know, maybe someone will find this interesting, but right now I have an office space. That's my office. I have 1 employee and it's cozy, it's cute. Obviously there's beautiful things in there because I can't not be surrounded by beautiful things. But I would love to have a more like client facing office, like studio space, even just sometimes I'll let a vendor come if I feel like, I don't know, it's the right vendor. But I would love to just use my studio space more for like outward facing things. I feel like that's a big step in a career, at least for me.
in the next year, we are a team of me, Anastasia, and Sapir, and I think we are ready to have a third member. So that would be like something that I see happening in the near future. And in addition to that, we're working on 2 great projects that I would love to see getting good publications on. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting next to me, but on the top of my head, just like, you know, keeping the blessing of having these great projects that we are working on, and just for that to continue.
And what are you working on right now?
That's a good question, because some of I wouldn't call it a problem, but some of the things I'm experiencing is that some clients don't end. So, which is a great thing. So I have some projects that have been, you know, you're never gonna see photograph, yet very profitable. And they've been clients of mine for years. And now she wants to do an extension of her Brooklyn townhouse. She wants to do X and Y and Z. So like, it's interesting how to see how, you know, those relationships don't end. They just grow and continue, and they keep coming back. But in addition to, I would say, 4 of those, we have 2 big projects. We have a penthouse on the West Village that it's very exciting. It sold for a very record amount, and we're working on that. And then we're also working for our Middle Eastern client who has a pied-à-terre on Gramercy. So those are our 2 new babies that are taking a lot of our time because they're brand new, and it's in the design phase, and everything is custom and tailor and all of the above. So yeah, I would say a good 6 projects altogether. Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, not bad. I don't think we can take any more.
Well, that's why you need to hire a 3rd person. And what about you?
I'm working on a bunch of exciting things. I can share like my most exciting project, just to share a bit of the unglamorous side of things. It's this incredible historic carriage house on the Silvermine River in Connecticut. It's the most charming little area. They literally have a river running through their backyard with a dam, and I'm so excited about it. But we have done nothing for it because they have a crazy moth infestation. So that's also something that happens sometimes. I'm like so ready to get going and get an architect in there and get plans, and they're like, we can't do anything until we freeze everything. They bought the previous owners all of their furniture so that we could do things sort of slow and they could go there, whatever. Anyway, that's one thing. Hopefully we figure out the moths. On a totally different note, I'm doing a small project, a commercial project actually. If anyone is familiar with the Hulkin bags, I'm doing their first office space in Brooklyn, which
Those are like the ones on wheels.
yes, I feel like every designer needs one. Anyone who schleps anything, you need the bag. They're not paying me to say that. But I'm doing their office. It's like quick and fun and totally different from everything else that I'm doing, which is why I said yes. I was like, with all these moth infestations and like long lead time things, yes, I will do your office in 6 weeks. So
6 weeks.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What's in stock?
All right. Great. So I'd love to open it up to questions if anybody has any.
Testing. Hi, my name is Akayla, and it's like a 2-part question. So my first part is kind of like post-pandemic. How would you say that the interior design space has changed or evolved? If it has or if it hasn't, that's great. And then my second part of my question, you kind of mentioned it at the beginning, is kind of AI's impact on interior design, because I think that's something that, like, as we kind of continue, it's always good to kind of keep a gauge on like what's happening in that world. And I'm not too crazy about AI, and I love the idea and to be creative, but it's also like we have to know how to work with it as well. So I don't know if you guys have seen it show up in the field any at all, but yeah, those are my 2 questions.
Well, I wasn't really in the design world. Well, I was at Soho. I was going to say pre-COVID, but I didn't have my own business pre-COVID. But I do feel like post-COVID, even people who like might not have felt this way before, I think more people care about their homes and how it feels for them, even if they didn't think they were a design person or somebody who wanted to hire a designer. So I think that's been great for us. And then to speak about AI, I don't know, I'm not that scared about it for what we do. I think it's a tool. Like, I love using it for my client calls and meetings. Every meeting, I've got an AI note taker that's capturing everything, that I can go back and say, like, what did they say? Did they like orange? Did they hate orange? And, it's like things like that I find really useful. I think clients have tried a little bit to use ChatGPT, like, look, this is what the bed would look like. And they send me this weird Frankenstein image. And I'm like, that looks really bad. Like, I could have rendered it, but if that helps them, that's great. Like, so I think it has its place, and I'm trying to embrace the things that I think will be helpful for us to be more efficient, but I'm not feeling threatened by it. And I don't think we should as designers, because like you said, like, we bring something special that they can't do. I believe that.
Well, so before COVID, during COVID, I was the director for someone else, for a studio, for a high-end interior design firm. And I remembered, I never quarantined, by the way, because I was living next to the office. So I did notice how much busier the office got. Not myself, because I opened my business at the end of 2021, so that was already past COVID. But I did notice on 2020, my boss went from busy to crazy busy, and it was a very tough year for, to be a decorator, which is a great thing. And I listen a lot to Dennis Scully at Business of Home, and a lot of high-end decorators say the same, that was the most profitable year, and people went nuts. And I guess perhaps after that, people are more conscious, are more aware about what they put in their homes, but I don't know. And in terms of AI, and as Station, I talk about it all the time. I have no clue. I cannot answer. I wish I had a crystal ball. We try to implement it as much as we can. She pisses me off all the time, because even with Anna does better render. Like, when we tried to use her for imagery, I feel like she's not there, but then she helps. It's like this oxymoron. Like, sometimes she's very good in one thing, and then she's terrible in others. I'm personal. Like, before I had an employee, I did all my watercolors by hand. So I'm very like analog, if you can call it a way. Like, I'm very not technology savvy at all. So I don't know. We will all find out together. But yeah, we try to implement that. I use it for minutes. I use it for email. If when I moved here, AI was there, like, I wouldn't have learned, because it's so good for, help me fix my grammar here. Like, am I making any grammatical error? Can you check this contract? Can you, like, summarize this for me? Do you see any legal issue? Or, like, I talk to her daily, like, for things to help me get a different opinion on something. Even if is this light temperature better than this if my client has this, for everything I ask the question. That doesn't mean that but I do ask the question, and it does provide information back to you very rapidly. In terms of how it's gonna impact our businesses, I don't know.
Do you know what I love it for, by the way? Wallpaper calculations.
Oh, excellent.
I used to have to wait for my wallpaper installer because I was not going to attempt. It took too much time. And now we still ask our installer because we want it to be on them if it's wrong. But for budget purposes, we type it into, we're Gemini people. We type it into Gemini, and boom, it's like, thank you.
See, I feel like these are the AI things that, like, I don't necessarily think of, but are, like, actually useful.
Yeah.
Like, it's less, like, AI is, like, going to design the room for you, and more like, using it as, like, a wallpaper calculator. That's brilliant. Yeah. Interesting. Any other questions from the audience? Yep.
Hi, I'm Swagatika. I don't know if I missed this earlier on, but you spoke about, a lot of images on Pinterest and Instagram, and after scrolling through, some things can look very similar, and your feed ends up being like, one entire mood board and palette. How do you then differentiate yourself from all of these different images?
I think that it's important to have like your unique point of view, but I feel like as long as you're being authentic to yourself and not even really worrying about like, oh, that person's doing blue rooms, I shouldn't do blue rooms or whatever. Like if you're just truly doing you, I don't think you have to worry about that. I feel like you can go wrong when you start to worry too much about what everyone else is doing and trying to think about how you can be different. And I think it has to come like authentically.
That's an incredible advice. I have nothing to add to that. That was perfect. We all have our different voices, and you have to stay true to yours.
Yeah. I think otherwise it doesn't feel right. That's at least, that's the type of clients that I want to attract anyway, the people who appreciate that type of thing. If you're going for people who have beach houses, then maybe you want to do things differently, or, I guess do the thing that you want to attract from your future clients.
That's very good advice. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Marina, and first I would like to say that this is a privilege to be in front of these three beautiful women. Beautiful, smart, and powerful. It's such a big inspiration for me. So my question is more for you, Valerie. I am from Brazil. I was born and raised there. And when I first decided to start school at NIC, I was like, I really want to bring my culture and my roots to every project I make. And also to all my assignments. That's what I've been trying to do. So I would like to know from you if you are bringing, I don't know, if before or now you're bringing some elements from your culture to your projects and sharing with your clients. How welcoming is that? Or if it's really like in between lines, I would say,
Yeah. The art is not Brazil. I'm a huge fan of Brazil. Brazil is just the mecca for me in every project. I'm gonna push for a Sergio Rodriguez. I'm gonna push for a Carlo Hunter. I'm such a huge fan from Brazilian mid-century. So we don't have that yet as a culture, but it is something that I very strongly want, and it's one of my passions to kind of like, I was talking to the dean in my school recently to kind of like either do a line with certain pieces from the art that you can only find there. It's a big part of my identity, who I am. But I don't have that realm that I can pull from, perhaps sources from the art that I can spec in a project, because we don't have that level of furniture over there. I do bring my culture by myself, but not in furnishings that I could use. No, if I'm answering your question. I was trained there though, and that is something that did give me the basis for how I try to operate in an everyday basis. I learned how to manage projects there, and those things they still remain. But in terms of furnishings and specification, not so much. One day.
Thank you. I would like to add something. Last summer, I went to São Paulo, and I was staying at the Rosewood Hotel, and Philippe Stark designed it. Mm-hmm. And he only used Brazilian furniture, and it's incredible. You should go there.
I would love to.
Love it.
I love to. I don't know if you know, but I'll introduce you. We'll talk later. But Bossa Furniture, she's a dear friend of mine, and she has educated me so much about Brazilian furniture, and I'm obsessed with the culture, obsessed with, you guys did it right.
Thank you.
That's great. Do we have any more questions?
Hi, thank you for the panel today. I did want to ask when do you know to say no to a client or to say no to a project, but keep that relationship for future projects or?
Yeah, that's something that's tricky. I've recently formed, with the help of Gemini, like my canned response for like, this sounds super interesting. In essence, like this sounds super interesting. It's not the scope that I'm looking for, but for XYZ reasons, whatever. I always say like this year, just because maybe next year I am taking smaller projects or something. And then I always try to end with like, would you like me to reach out to my network to see if I could find somebody who might be suitable? Because then at least it leaves them feeling like, oh, she's nice, or like, oh, she's going to help me. And sometimes I am able to make a connection. I'll reach out to some friends and say, hey, anybody who can do this project on the Upper West Side, whatever. And that it also makes me feel good. I'm like, okay, I didn't just have to say no. It like leaves something. But it's hard. I think like you don't know. You try to plan what your year is going to look like and say, I want 2 big projects or XYZ, and so I can't take 3 small projects. But I guess you have to stay somewhat flexible. So, and there's also gut. It's like, if that really doesn't excite me and it's not the scope that I'm looking for, it's not the timeline that I'm looking for, you have to just trust that the right thing is coming next. And I've been there a few times where I don't have a full like calendar, but you just have to be confident that something better is coming.
Have you ever regretted saying no?
So far, no. No, because the right thing has always come. Yeah.
At the beginning, I would say yes to everything. I would never say no. I think this year has probably been the year where I started saying no, and precisely that. I have an ex-coworker who's starting her own business. So if a scope seems now too small for me or not necessarily the right fit, I would say that I'll be too busy, but I'm happy to refer her to someone else, and I would make that introduction. But at the year 1, anything. You want drapes? I was there just putting the drapes. So like I guess it depends.
I was there too,
yeah.
saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Great. Are we? I think we're all good. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you both for being here, and congratulations on all of your amazing success, and we can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. You were